Well, to election 2020, the editorial board of the Houston Chronicle has a message for Beto ORourke. It's time to end your presidential campaign and come home. In their column, the board notes ORourke's campaign is falling behind, saying, quote, drop out of the race for president and come back to Texas to run for senator. The chances of winning the race you're in now are vanishingly small, and Texas needs you. ORourke lost his last Senate bid to Ted Cruz, but the editorial board says his run was inspiring and worked to show Texas isn't just a red state. If ORourke were to drop out and seek the Senate seat, he'd be up against John Cornyn, who is seeking his 4th term. The board says it wouldn't be easy and, quote, you'd have to fight for it and do it better than you did against Cruz, but a lot has changed since 2018. You had a lot to do with that. And Trump is no longer rock solid in Texas, and neither are the Republicans who support him.
And with that, we want to bring in Tom Bevin, president and co-founder of Real Clear Politics. Tom, always a pleasure to have you.
Good to be with you.
So let's start there. Texas, long a red state, is turning purple. Does the Houston Chronicle have a point about Beto ORourke folding his campaign and potentially flipping Texas's Senate seat?
Well, I think they have a point about him not having a real chance at winning the Democratic nomination. He seems to be sort of languishing and has fallen off recently. But as far as winning the Senate seat, I mean, John Cornyn is not Ted Cruz. It is a presidential year. And I think what Beto ORourke did in 2018, though, was prove that, I mean, he did have raising just an awesome amount of money, and he did have huge turnout across the state. There are signs that Texas is swinging a little more purple and even blue, particularly in the suburbs, and we've now got 3 or 4 House seats that Republicans are going to be hard-pressed to hold. They're going to have to really fight for them. Will Hurd's seat and a couple others in the suburbs. So I'm not sure, though, again, with Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, it's going to be and John Cornyn in particular, it'll be a heavy lift for Beto.
2020 Democrats, they have released a joint statement, Tom, ahead of President Trump's New Hampshire rally tomorrow night. They're calling him out for some of his, what they say, hateful rhetoric. Your thoughts on this joint statement?
Well, so Democrats, their strategy has been over the past, let's say, 2 weeks or 10 days, is really to amp up the rhetoric, calling President Trump from, racist to a white nationalist to a white supremacist. And there's really nowhere you can go and get any hotter than that in terms of the rhetoric on the Democratic side. And I think number one, I think that's not enough of a strategy. If they think that's enough to beat President Trump in 2020, I think that's misplaced. And number two, I think they risk a bit of a backlash because they're implicitly saying, and you hear this more and more from folks, Beto ORourke, for example, said it the other day, that he can't see anyone who would vote for Trump who isn't a racist. That kind of language, that kind of demeaning and defaming of tens of millions of people across the country, I think is a real risk for them. And it may not turn out the way that they think it will.
Tom, anecdotally, we're hearing that Democrats aren't as enthusiastic about Joe Biden as they are excited about other candidates. Abby Robertson was just at the Iowa State Fair and talked to several Democrats who gave that sentiment. Does that spell trouble for Democrats in the general election in 2020?
So the Democrats are going through a bit of a head versus heart thing, right? The number one thing they still care about is beating Donald Trump. And Joe Biden still, by most accounts, most polling data, has the best chance, according to Democrats. But he's not where their heart is. Their heart is with other candidates who get them more fired up, right? Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, other folks. And so while they're fine with Biden, that does pose a bit of a problem. Now, the thing for Democrats, I mean, this is the trade-off. They could nominate someone like Elizabeth Warren and rev up the base and generate thousands and thousands, millions of votes in places like California and New York and other blue states. But that's not going to help them in the Midwest. Joe Biden may generate less votes overall, but he might generate more votes in the places that matter most against President Trump in 2020. And that's where I think Democrats are trying to sort that out.
Just a few seconds left, Tom. But there's a new poll in North Carolina that finds President Trump with a 45% approval rating, 52% disapprove. Your thoughts on that poll?
North Carolina is a state that he won in 2016, and they obviously, the Republican National Convention is going to be in Charlotte. Republicans need to win that state. It's a little concerning that Trump's under 50% there, but again, this will come down to, I think, who the Democrats nominate and where the economy is.
All right, Tom Bevin with Real Clear Politics. Thanks, Tom.
You bet.